and I'm a PhD student here at James Cook University. I'm studying lymphatic filariasis. Do you know what lymphatic filariasis is? Well, most people don't, which is surprising because it is the major cause of disability in the world, second only to mental illness. Some 40 million people already have chronic disabling disease as a result of being infected with lymphatic filariasis. And just to put that in perspective, if you took all of the populations of Australia and New Zealand and Singapore all together and you gave everybody a chronic disfiguring condition, that's how many people have chronic disease from lymphatic filariasis. As well as that, 120 million people worldwide are already infected with filariasis, and something like 1.3 billion people, that's 1/7 of the entire world's population, are living in areas which are endemic for lymphatic filariasis. That means they're at risk of infection. Well, that's because filariasis mainly affects the bottom billion, the poorest of the poor. These are usually subsistence farmers living in rural villages in undeveloped countries, and they're exposed to a number of diseases like filariasis, collectively known as neglected tropical diseases. But being infected with filariasis isn't the main problem, it's those chronic diseases that I mentioned before. If I said to you, do you know anything about elephantiasis, you might go, oh yeah, oh that's horrible, I've heard of that. Well, that's the end result of being infected with lymphatic filariasis. That's the chronic stage of the disease. So it's a parasitic worm that's carried by mosquitoes. And then the adult worms live in the lymph system. They destroy the lymph vessels, and that's what causes the elephantiasis. We see this condition in Australia as well, but we call it lymphoedema. It happens here as a result of cancer treatment. So women will get a big arm after they've had mastectomy with lymph nodes removed. Other people have pelvic and other lower body cancers can have it in their limbs. There's another condition too that we don't see here very often called hydrocele, and that's where the swelling occurs in the scrotal sac, and yes, that's pretty horrible as well. For those of us not living in the bottom billion, lymphatic filariasis might not be of any concern to us. But I bet you that you do know someone that either has lymphoedema or is at risk of lymphoedema after one of those cancers that I mentioned. And a lot of the issues are the same, whether you're in a developing country or an undeveloped country. This condition is not life-threatening, it's not going to kill you, but it certainly is going to affect your quality of life. It's disabling, it's disfiguring, people like to hide it, and in countries like Myanmar, it's also accompanied with stigma and superstition because they don't realise the cause. But I know from my clinical experience in Australia that if we can identify who's at risk, if we can give them some good education about self-treatment, then we can often prevent the elephantiasis or the lymphoedema from developing. And it's the same with filariasis. We know that in filariasis endemic countries, children will become infected with the worm, but they won't develop any clinical signs until they're adolescents or young adults. So that's where my PhD project comes in. I've come here to Townsville because my supervisor, Dr. Sue Gordon, has done some really groundbreaking work with a very simple tool that we use to measure change in lymphoedema populations in Australia, the tonometer. It's just a very simple mechanism for detecting changes in the tissue compression. There's a new digital version, the indurometer, and that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to take it to Myanmar in a bigger population and see if I can validate this as a diagnostic tool so that we can really find out who is most at risk of developing lymphoedema and then offer them some kind of intervention. Ultimately, my aim is to prevent young people who are at risk of filariasis from ever developing chronic diseases, not just waiting until it's too late and then trying to offer them something once they already have elephantiasis or hydrocele. So that's where you and this Rocket Hub campaign come in. It seemed to me that if I want to help a lot of people, then it's a good idea to ask a lot of people to help me in achieving that goal. So I'm hoping that you're going to look at some of my Christmas ideas on the right of your screen there and help support my project. Every one of those Christmas gifts that you can purchase is a piece of equipment or something that we need for the Myanmar Project. For example, this little card is called an ICT card. It's a rapid diagnostic test to find out who's infected. You just put a drop of blood on the inside and it tells you straight away if they've been infected with filariasis. Well, they're nearly $10 each. Doesn't seem like much, but we're going to need about 2,000 of them or more for the project altogether. We already have one interferometer, but we'll need a few more. They're just over $2,000 each. We use bioimpedance spectroscopy, which is another tool that we commonly use in Australia to measure changes in people's lymphoedema. Fortunately, JC already have one of those $15,000 units, but we need to use these one-off single-use electrodes every time. Okay, they're only about 30 cents each, but there's 8 electrodes per measure. It's a few hundred people in the study. We're going to measure them multiple times. You can see how that's going to. We'll also provide equipment and training for local health workers and local lab technicians. I've been to Myanmar and I've seen what's possible there, and I really want to, as much as possible, involve the local people. Just as important as answering our research questions is going to be leaving programs with them that they can carry on after we've finished our study. If you do buy some of my gifts for your Christmas presents this year, then your gift certificate will tell the person that you're giving it to everything about what you've purchased for them, whether it's an electrode, a set of electrodes, or an interferometer, whether it's a piece of very expensive lab equipment. It will come in a beautifully printed card with the spectacular Myanmar landscape on it. And I really hope that you'll feel very good about giving this as a Christmas present. Your gift will be sent to you in a high quality gift card with a beautiful Myanmar landscape sent on it and a gift certificate on the inside giving details about the piece of equipment or the training that you've purchased. Think about giving someone that you care about this Christmas a gift that will help one of those young people in Myanmar to have a better future. I'd really like to thank you for watching my video. I'd really like to thank Trevor for giving me, as a donation, his time and his efforts in putting this video together. Please pass this message on to other people that you know that might also be interested. Jesu Timbate.